light was fading when you smiled at me that night. We stood beside the doorway while the city turned to quiet. You said we'd talk tomorrow, so I watched you walk away, never knowing that tomorrow would never be the same. I still remember that old coat, the rain upon your hair, the way you turned around and smiled as if you'd always be there. There was nothing extraordinary, just an ordinary night. But somehow that simple moment has stayed with me all my life. If I had known the time was running out, I would have stayed a little longer. I would have held you close. The last time I saw you smile, I didn't know it was goodbye. I thought there would be another evening, another chance, another time. The last time I saw you smile, the whole world seemed so still. And even after all these years, I remember how it felt. I have lived through many seasons. I've watched the years go by. I've met new faces, walked new roads, and learned to say goodbye. But some memories are different. They never really fade. They wait inside the quiet for the moment they awake. Maybe love is not forever in the way we once believed. Maybe it becomes a little light we carry when we leave. And every time I think of you, I don't remember tears. I remember that gentle smile that stayed with me for years. The last time I saw you smile, I finally understand. Some moments become precious only after they have passed. I wish I could return there just for one more evening light, not to change a single thing, just to see you smile again tonight. The city is quiet now, the rain has disappeared, but somewhere in my memory I can still see you smiling. I still leave a little space beside me when I sit alone. It's an old and foolish habit from the days when you were home. Sometimes I turn to tell you something funny from my day. Then I remember you're not here, and the words just fade away. We used to share the evening with the radio turned low. You would tell me about your dreams, and I'd never wanna go. Those nights seemed so ordinary, nothing special, nothing new. But now they are the memories I would give the world to keep. Funny how the quiet moments become the ones we miss the most. When the person sitting beside you becomes a memory you hold. There's a quiet place beside me where your memory remains. A little piece of yesterday that time could never change. I don't need you to come back. I don't ask the past to stay. I'm just grateful for the love that once filled that empty space. I've learned to enjoy the morning. I've learned to sleep alone. I've found new roads to walk on and made another place my home. But sometimes when the evening settles softly on the town, I still feel your presence when the whole world quiets down. Maybe love doesn't disappear when two people say goodbye. Maybe it becomes a softer thing we carry through our lives. And if remembering you is all that's left for me, then I'll keep those little moments like a light beside my feet. There's a quiet place beside me, and I don't fear it anymore, because everything we shared is something worth remembering for. You were part of who I became, part of every road I've known. And even though you're far away, your warmth still still feels like home. The radio is playing softly. The evening has grown still, and that quiet place beside me doesn't feel so empty anymore. There was a little light we left on every night, a quiet glow by the door. When the whole town went dark, you said it warmed the house, I said it showed my way. We never knew that little light would mean so much someday. We spent our evenings talking while the rain came down outside. You by the window, me right by your side. We never needed much back then, just coffee and a song. Those simple nights looked ordinary, but they were where we belonged. Now the years have taken more than I can say, but some small memories refuse to fade away. It's the light we left behind, still glowing in my mind. A little piece of you and me, time could not divide. Though we walked different roads and life kept changing ways, that gentle light still tells my heart love was here one day.
Love was here one day.
I passed our old street yesterday. The houses look so small. The little cafe where we met was barely there at all. But standing in the evening rain, I felt the years disappear. For one brief breath I was young, and you were standing near. Maybe we don't keep the people, we only keep the love. The moments and the kindness, the things we learned from us. And every time I see a light cutting through the dark, I think of how you once made home inside my heart. It's the light we left behind, still glowing in my mind. Not a promise to return, not a reason to rewind, just a quiet little warmth I carry every day. A reminder that for some time We love the right way.
We love the right way.
The night is getting darker, the city fades from view, but somewhere in the distance I still see that light, and I think of you. The rain came down this evening like it did so long ago. I walked our old street slowly, where we used to take it slow. The windows wore warm light, the sidewalk shined like glass, and for one small second I thought you'd call me back. We shared one umbrella when the summer rain came down. You would laugh when I got soaked before we reached the edge of town. We never thought those wet nights would ever mean this much, but memory keeps the feeling when I lose the ones I love. I don't know where you are tonight, but when the rain begins to fall, I still remember everything. I still remember it all. Maybe the rain remembers you. Maybe it remembers me too. Every drop holds yesterday. Every drop still pulls me through. I don't need to find you. I don't need to turn back time. I only need this quiet rain to know you were once mine.
Maybe the rain remembers you.
The years have changed the city, and the old cafe is gone. but every rainy evening keeps your memory walking on. I've learned to live with silence. I've learned to let things be. But some nights that steady falling brings you back to me. Maybe love is like the weather, it changes and it stays. A summer turns to autumn, a name can fade away. But even when it's over, it doesn't disappear. It lives inside the heart and comes back every year. Maybe the rain remembers you. Maybe it remembers me too. Every drop holds yesterday. Every drop still pulls me through. I don't need to find you. I don't need to turn back time. I only need this quiet rain to know you were once mine. Maybe the rain remembers you. The rain is falling softly. The street is almost still. And somewhere in that quiet sound, I remember you. There's still a chair beside the window where you used to sit at night, watching all the passing cars beneath the yellow light. You'd hold your coffee in both hands and tell me about your day. I never knew those quiet evenings would mean so much someday. The chair is still there waiting, though the room has changed with time. I sometimes catch myself believing you'll be there when I arrive. The old radio is playing that same familiar tune. And for a little while tonight, I feel I'm sitting there with you. Some things don't need a reason. Some memories simply stay. The chair by the window still remembers you. The quiet little evenings, the things we used to do. I don't try to move it, I don't ask why it's there. Some pieces of a lifetime are too precious to repair. I used to think that happiness was something we could hold. A house, a little money, a story growing old. But now I know it lived inside those ordinary days, in the way you smiled at me and the warmth you used to give. If I could sit beside you for one evening once again, I wouldn't talk about tomorrow, I wouldn't ask when. I'd simply hear your voice and watch the evening fade, and thank you for the life we had before the years changed everything. The chair by the window still remembers you, and somehow when I see it, the room feels warm and new. You're not here beside me, but I don't feel alone, because every quiet memory still knows the way back home. The evening light is fading, the room is turning blue, and that old chair by the window still reminds me of you. We stayed awake until midnight, with the rain against the glass. You told me stories from your childhood, and I wish the night would last. The coffee had grown colder, but neither one of us could sleep. There was something in the silence that felt too beautiful to leave. You rested by the window while I watched the city lights. We talked about our younger days and all the dreams we'd left behind. You said that life moves quickly, and I told you I knew, but neither of us was ready for the morning to come through. So we stayed there in the darkness, letting every moment breathe, as if holding back the sunrise could make forever real. Before the morning came, I held your hand in mine. We didn't need tomorrow, we only needed that night. before the morning came. The world was far away, and for a little while I wish that time would stay. If I could live one night again, I'd choose that night with you, before the morning came, before we had to say goodbye. The first light touched the curtains, and you smiled across the room. Neither one of us said anything. We both knew what it meant. You put your coat around you, I walked with you downstairs, and every step toward the doorway felt heavier than the last. Some nights become a lifetime without asking to be one. Some people leave a mark on us before we know they've gone. And when I think about you now, I don't remember tears. I remember that quiet morning we carried through the years. Before the morning came, you were still here with me. The city hadn't woken, and our hearts were still at peace. Before the morning came, I thought we had more time, but some of life's most precious moments only happen once in life. And if I could return there, I wouldn't change a thing. I'd simply hold your hand again, before the morning came. The sun is rising slowly, the night is fading blue, and somewhere in that morning light, I still remember you. I still remember the way you used to say my name, so softly in the evening when the whole world felt asleep. It wasn't anything special, just a word you always knew. But somehow when you said it, I felt like I belonged to you. You'd call me from the kitchen when the coffee was ready. I'd answer from the hallway just to hear you call again. Those little moments passed us by, we never thought they'd end. But now they're some of the sweetest memories I still have. Funny how the heart remembers what the years can never keep. A voice, a smile, a simple word that follows us through sleep. I remember the way you said my nothing in the world could ever be the same. I remember your voice when the evening turned blue, and every time I hear my name, I think of you. I don't need yesterday, I don't ask you to return. I just keep that little sound inside the heart I've learned. I've heard 1,000 voices since the day you went away, but none of them could ever sound the way yours did to me. Time has changed my life now, and I've learned to let things go. But some small pieces of the past still follow where I go. Maybe love is not the grand things, not the promises we make. Maybe it's a quiet voice we never thought we'd miss. Maybe it's the smallest moments that become the hardest to lose, because they were never meant to become memories. I remember the way you said my name, and even after all these years, it still remains. Not as sadness, not as something I must hold, but as a little warmth from a love I once called home. I remember the way you said my name, like nothing in the world could ever be the same. I remember your voice when the evening turned blue, and every time I hear my name, I think of you. The night is quiet now, I hear the rain outside, and for just a moment I hear you say my name. There was a window in our old room where we waited every night. You would watch the street below me, I would search for your light. Sometimes I'd come home after midnight, and you'd still be standing there. You never asked me why I was late, you only smiled when I came near. We spent so many evenings looking through that little glass, watching rain fall on the pavement, watching all the seasons pass. You would tell me about tomorrow, I would tell you about my dreams. Back then we thought our little life would last forever, just like that. I never knew those quiet nights would become the ones I miss. Sometimes the smallest memories are the hardest ones to leave. At the window where we used to wait, I still see you in the evening light, standing there with your gentle smile, making everything feel right. At the window where we used to wait, the years have taken you away, but every time the rain comes down, I remember those old days. I went back there years later, and the room was almost bare. The window was still facing the same old street outside. I stood there for a moment, and I felt the years return, not with sadness like before, but with a warmth I couldn't explain. Maybe home was never the walls or windows after all. Maybe home was simply knowing someone would be there when you called. And even though the years have changed the life we used to know, that little window still reminds me where my heart once found a home. At the window where we used to wait, I don't feel lonely anymore. I remember every evening what those moments were worth. At the window where we used to wait, I can finally let it go, because some love is meant to stay as a memory, not a road. The evening light is fading, the street is quiet below, and for one last moment I see your shadow in the window. We talked about the weather when there was so much more to say. You looked at me in silence as the evening turned to gray. I knew there was a question hiding somewhere in your eyes, but I was too afraid to ask you, and you were too afraid to try. We walked along the river with the city shining bright. You told me that you missed me, then you changed the subject twice. I wanted to tell you everything, but the words stayed in my heart. Sometimes fear can make two people stand so close and still be far. Maybe we were young, maybe we were scared, maybe love was standing there, and neither one prepared for all the things we never said. I still remember every word. The words that stayed behind our lips were louder than they seemed. I wish I'd told you I was scared. I wish I'd asked you to stay, but life moved on between us before we found the words to say. For all the things we never said, I hope you knew somehow that even when I couldn't speak, I loved you more than I know how. The years have made me older, and they've taught me not to hide. If someone matters to your heart, don't leave the truth inside. Say the words while there's still time. Hold the hand that's next to you, because tomorrow isn't promised, and silence can become regret. I don't blame you for the silence, and I don't blame myself. We were simply two young people trying to understand love. Some stories end without a reason, some memories never leave, and sometimes what we never say is what we remember most. For all the things we never said, I carry them with peace, not as a broken promise, but as part of who I became. If I could see you one more time, I wouldn't let the moment pass. I'd simply look into your eyes and tell you what I couldn't then. For all the things we never said, I hope you knew somehow that even when I couldn't speak, I loved you more than I know how. The night is quiet now, the years have come and gone, but some words live forever after the people have moved on. And these are the words I should have said. looking through the window glass, watching all the lonely lights and thinking of the past. I wondered where you were, if you ever thought of me, if somewhere in your quiet life you still remembered what we used to be. I kept your old photograph inside a wooden drawer. I couldn't throw it away, but I couldn't look anymore. It carried all the years we thought would never end, a little piece of yesterday, a place where we had been. But time has a quiet way of teaching hearts to breathe, and slowly I began to understand what letting go could mean. When the night finally let me go, I saw the morning light. I realized I could carry love without holding on too tight. When the night finally let me go, I wasn't afraid anymore. I could remember you with tenderness and still walk through my own door. Some loves stay inside our hearts even when the story ends, and sometimes saying goodbye is how we begin again. I walked the streets we knew one quiet evening in the fall. The old cafe was still there, but our table was gone. I smiled at the memory instead of turning away, because I finally understood that love can change its shape. We don't have to forget the people who changed our lives. We can thank them for the moments and leave the pain behind. Every road we lose can lead us somewhere new, and every ending carries a little light with it too. When the night finally let me go, I felt the morning near, not because I stopped remembering, but because I no longer feared. When the night finally let me go, I opened up the door, and all the years I spent looking back couldn't hold me anymore. I will always remember you, that part will always stay. But tonight I choose tomorrow, and I finally walk away. The city is waking slowly, the sky is turning gold. I take one quiet breath and let the night go. Some memories stay forever, but they don't have to hurt. And for the first time in many years, I feel the morning. 아무 말 없이 창밖을 보다가 문득 네 생각이 났어. 참 오래된 일인데 아직도 마음 한구석엔 그날의 네가 남아있더라. 나는 왜 그땐 몰랐을까? 네가 얼마나 참았는지. 시간이 지나고 나서야 조금씩 보이더라. 곁에 있을 때는 몰랐던 마음 떠나고 나서야 알게 되더라. 그때는 몰랐던 것들 이제야 알 것 같아. 사랑은 하루 속에 더 오래 남는다는 걸. 미안하단 말 한마디 따뜻하게 못했던 밤들 돌아갈 수 있다면 다르게 말해주고 싶어. 가끔 비가 내리면 그 길을 혼자 걸어. 작은 카페 불빛 하나에도 이상하게 네가 떠올라. 가장 소중했던 순간엔 늘 그 소중함을 몰랐고 다 지나간 뒤에야 평범한 하루가 선물이었어. 혹시 너도 가끔 나를 생각할까? 아니면 이제는 아무 기억도 없을까? 나는 잘 지내고 있어 이렇게 말하고 싶지만 아직도 마음 한쪽엔 하지 못한 말이 남아있어. 고마웠다고 정말 많이 고마웠다고. 그때는 몰랐던 것들 이제야 알 것 같아. 사랑은 하루 속에 더 오래 남는다는 걸. 미안하단 말 한마디 따뜻하게 못했던 밤들 돌아갈 수 있다면 다르게 말해주고 싶어. 그때는 몰랐던 것들 이제야 모두 알 것 같아. 사랑했던 날도 헤어졌던 날도 결국은 나를 조금 더 좋게 만들었어. 혹시 다시 만나는 날 아무것도 묻지 않을게. 그저 웃으며 잘 지냈냐고 그 한마디만 천천히 건네고 싶어. 비가 그친 뒤에도 젖은 길은 한동안 비를 기억하더라. 나도 그런가 봐. 시간은 이렇게 흘렀는데 아직 네가 남아있어. 오늘은 유난히 네가 걷던 그 길을 천천히 걸어봤어. 우리가 자주 앉았던 작은 카페 창가에는 아직도 노란 불빛이 켜져 있었지. 예전 같으면 그 앞에서 멈춰 섰을 텐데 오늘은 그냥 지나쳤어. 이제는 괜찮아졌다고 나 자신에게 몇 번이나 말하면서 사람 마음이라는 게 참 이상한 것 같아. 잊으려고 할수록 더 선명해지는 사람. 아무렇지 않던 순간이 시간이 지나면 가장 그리운 기억이 되니까. 비가 그친 뒤에도 마음은 젖어 있나 봐. 네가 떠난 그날처럼 아무 말 없이 비어있는 마음. 괜찮다고 말하면서 혼자 웃어보지만 아직도 나는 너를 놓지 못해. 아직도 나는 너를 놓지 못해. 가끔은 생각해. 우리가 조금만 더 서로에게 솔직했다면 그때의 서운함 하나, 그때의 자존심 하나 그렇게 쉽게 놓아버릴 수 있었을까. 나는 사랑을 붙잡는 것만 알았고 너는 사랑을 기다리는 법을 알았던 것 같아. 그래서 결국 우리는 서로를 사랑하면서도 서로를 잃어버렸지. 이제 와서야 알겠어. 사랑은 누군가를 내 곁에 두는 게 아니라 그 사람이 떠난 뒤에도 미워하지 않는 마음이라는 걸. 그래서 나는 너를 원망하지 않아. 다만 한 번쯤은 말해주고 싶어. 그때의 나는 너를 사랑하는 방법을 잘 몰랐다고. 계절이 몇 번이나 바뀌고 거리의 사람들도 많이 변했는데 이상하게 너와 함께했던 작은 기억들은 아직도 어제 일처럼 남아있어. 따뜻한 커피 한 잔, 창문에 맺힌 빗방울, 늦은 밤 집으로 돌아가던 길. 그때는 너무 평범했던 것들이 지금의 나에게는 가장 소중한 시간이 되었어. 비가 그친 뒤에도 마음은 젖어 있나 봐. 시간이 모든 것을 치유해준다지만 어떤 기억은 치유되는 게 아니라 그저 조용히 살아가는 건가 봐. 그래도 괜찮아. 네가 내 삶에 잠시라도 머물러 주었다는 것, 머물러 주었다는 것, 그것만으로도 나는 충분히 고마우니까. 비가 그친 어느 날 혹시 우리가 다시 만난다면 아무 말 하지 않아도 괜찮을 것 같아. 그저 서로를 바라보며 조금 웃을 수 있다면 그때의 우리에게 그것으로 충분할 테니까. 나는 이제 너를 붙잡지 않을게. 멀리서라도 네가 잘 지내기를 바라볼게. 잘 지내기를 조용히 바라볼게. 비가 그쳤네. 젖은 길 위로 늦은 불빛이 번지고 있어. 오늘은 이상하게 네 생각이 나도 마음이 아프지 않아. 아마도 나는 조금씩 배워가고 있나 봐. 사랑했던 사람을 떠나보내는 법을. 그리고 그 사람을 좋은 기억으로 남겨두는 법을. 비가 그친 뒤에도, 비가 그친 뒤에도, 비가 그친 뒤에도 젖은 길은 한동안 비를 기억하더라. 나도 그런가 봐. 시간은 이렇게 흘렀는데 아직 네가 남아있어. 오늘은 유난히 네가 걷던 서랍 깊은 곳에서 오래된 편지 한 장을 오늘 우연히 찾았어. 얼마나 오래됐는지 종이 끝은 조금 바래고 내 글씨도 희미해졌는데 이상하게 마음은 그날로 돌아가더라. 그때의 나는 참 바빴던 것 같아. 사랑한다는 말보다 해야 할 일이 더 많았고 네가 기다리는 마음보다 내가 힘들다는 생각을 더 먼저 했던 것 같아. 그래서 네가 건넨 편지도 제대로 읽지 않았지. 나중에 읽겠다고 서랍 속에 넣어두고 그런데 시간이 지나고 모든 것이 달라진 지금 나는 그 작은 종이 한 장에서 그때의 너를 다시 만나고 있어. 오래된 편지 속에 네 마음이 남아있었어. 그때는 몰랐던 말들이 이제야 내게 들려와. 괜찮다고 말하면서도 사실은 많이 외로웠다고. 나를 원망하기보다 끝까지 이해하려 했다는 걸. 왜 나는 그때 그 마음을 몰랐을까. 편지 마지막에는 짧은 문장이 하나 있었어. 언젠가 우리가 다시 만나게 된다면 그때는 서로에게 조금 더 솔직했으면 좋겠다고. 나는 그 문장을 읽다가 한참을 멈춰 있었어. 이제 와서야 알겠더라. 우리가 헤어진 건 사랑하지 않아서가 아니라 서로 사랑하면서도 서로의 마음을 제대로 듣지 못해서였다는 걸. 피아노만 남아 창밖에는 비가 내리고 방 안에는 작은 시계 소리만 조용히 들려와. 예전 같으면 네가 보고 싶다고 말했을 텐데 오늘은 그냥 고맙다는 생각이 들어. 내 인생에 잠시라도 네가 있었던 것, 그것 하나만으로도 참 고마운 일이었구나. 사람은 떠나고 나서야 그 사람이 남긴 것을 알게 되나 봐. 함께 마셨던 커피 한 잔, 아무 의미 없던 대화, 집 앞에서 나누던 짧은 인사. 그때는 너무 평범해서 기억하지 못했던 순간들이 이제는 내 인생에서 가장 따뜻한 기억이 되어 있어. 오래된 편지 속에 아직 네가 웃고 있어. 시간이 이렇게 흘렀는데도 그 미소는 변하지 않았어. 나는 이제 너를 기다리지 않아. 다시 돌아오기를 바라지도 않아. 다만 네가 어디에 있든 부디 평안하기를 그 마음 하나는 오래 간직할 것 같아. 혹시 어느 날 이 편지를 다시 펼쳐본다면 그때의 나에게 이렇게 말해주고 싶어. 사랑은 내일로 미루지 말라고. 하고 싶은 말이 있다면 오늘 말하라고. 곁에 있는 사람의 손을 한 번 더 잡아주라고. 사람에게는 언제나 내일이 있는 것이 아니니까. 편지를 다시 접어 서랍 속에 조용히 넣었어. 이제는 버리지 않을 거야. 잊기 위해서가 아니라 그때의 내가 무엇을 놓치고 살았는지 가끔은 기억하기 위해서. 그리고 오늘은 조금 늦었지만 너에게 말할게. 고마웠어. 정말 고마웠어. 그날 밤도 비가 내리고 있었어. 창문에 부딪히던 빗소리와 네가 숨을 고르던 소리가 아직도 내 기억 속에 남아있어. 우리는 한참 동안 아무 말도 하지 않았지. 무슨 말을 해야 하는지 둘 다 알고 있었으니까 나는 괜찮은 척했고 너도 웃어 보였지만 그 웃음 뒤에 숨겨진 마음을 나는 끝내 알아보지 못했어. 조금만 더 솔직했다면, 조금만 더 붙잡았다면 우리의 마지막 밤은 달라졌을까. 시간이 지나면 괜찮아질 거라고 나는 그렇게 쉽게 말했었는데, 시간은 모든 것을 잊게 해주는 게 아니라 그날의 마음을 더 선명하게 만드는 것 같아. 마지막으로 네 이름을 부르던 밤 나는 네가 정말 떠날 줄 몰랐어. 문이 닫히고 발자국 소리가 멀어질 때까지도 언젠가는 다시 돌아올 거라고 생각했어. 하지만 어떤 이별은 다시 만날 약속 없이 그저 끝나는 것이더라. 그 후로 많은 계절이 내 앞을 지나갔어. 봄도 왔고 겨울도 몇 번이나 지나갔지. 새로운 사람을 만나고 새로운 곳에서 살아도 가끔 아주 사소한 순간에 네가 떠올라. 비 오는 저녁, 오래된 노래하는 곳, 따뜻한 커피 냄새, 그리고 늦은 밤의 불빛, 그런 것들이 나를 다시 그날로 데려가. 이제는 알아, 사랑한다고 해서 모든 순간을 함께 할 수 있는 건 아니라는 걸. 어떤 사람은 우리 인생에 잠시 머물다가 평생 잊을 수 없는 한 사람이 되어 떠나기도 한다는 걸. 그때의 나는 그걸 몰랐어. 사랑이 끝나면 모든 것도 끝. 참 이상하지. 그때는 아무것도 아니었던 하루가 시간이 지나고 나면 가장 그리운 날이 되어 있어. 기억나니 우리가 함께 걷던 계절. 바람이 조금 차가워지면 너는 내 팔에 조용히 기대곤 했지. 나는 아무 말 없이 네 걸음에 맞춰 걸었고 우리는 특별한 이야기도 없이 참 오래 걸었어. 그때는 몰랐어. 그 평범한 시간이 내 인생에서 가장 따뜻한 순간이 될 줄은. 사진 속에 우리는 참 젊어 보이는데 그때의 나는 시간이 이렇게 빨리 흘러갈 줄 몰랐나 봐. 영원할 것 같았던 것들이 하나둘 지나가고 남은 건 몇 장의 사진과 몇 개의 기억뿐이야. 우리가 함께 걷던 계절, 그 길은 아직 그대로일까? 낙엽이 떨어지던 그 길에서 네가 웃었던 모습이 아직도 내 마음 한쪽에 선명하게 남아있어. 사랑은 떠나도 그때 마음까지 사라지는 건 아닌가 봐. 나는 아직도 그 계절을 가끔 걷고 있으니까. 기억나니 작은 카페 창가에서 우리는 커피 한 잔을 놓고 몇 시간이나 이야기를 했지. 무슨 이야기를 했는지는 이제 잘 기억나지 않아. 그런데 이상하게 네가 웃던 모습만은 아직도 또렷하게 기억나. 그때 나는 그 순간이 행복하다는 걸 알지 못했어. 행복은 언제나 조용히 지나간 뒤에야 알게 되는 것 같아. 시간이 많이 흘렀어. 우리의 머리에도 조금씩 흰빛이 생겼겠지. 너는 지금 어디에서 어떤 모습으로 살아갈까? 가끔 궁금하지만 찾아가지는 않아. 이미 지나간 사람의 삶까지. 내가 알고 싶어 하는 건 어쩌면 내 욕심일 테니까. 다만 한 가지 바라는 게 있다면 네가 지금 편안하게 웃고 있었으면 좋겠어. 나와 함께 했던 날보다 더 좋은 날들을 많이 만나면서 때로는 나를 떠올려도 아프지 않았으면 해. 나도 이제 너를 생각할 때 슬픔보다 고마움이 먼저니까. 우리가 함께 걷던 계절 다시는 돌아오지 않겠지만 그날의 따뜻한 햇살과 네가 건네던 작은 미소는 내가 살아가는 동안 오래 남아있을 거야. 사랑했던 사람을 잊는다는 건 기억을 지우는 게 아니라 그 사람을 마음속 편안한 곳에 내려놓는 것. 이제야 조금 알 것 같아. 우리가 함께 걷던 계절, 내 인생의 가장 아름다운 날들. 돌아갈 수 없어서 더 소중한가 봐. 만약 다시 그날로 돌아갈 수 있다면 나는 아무것도 바꾸지 않을게. 그저 네 손을 조금 더 오래 잡고 조금 더 천천히 걷고 오늘 오늘이 지나면 다시 오지 않는다는 걸 그때의 나에게 조용히 알려주고 싶어. 계절은 다시 돌아오는데 사람은 그때로 돌아갈 수 없네. 그래도 괜찮아. 우리가 함께 걸었던 그 길은 내 마음속에서 아직 끝나지 않았으니까. 오늘도 가끔 그 계절을 떠올리며 나는 천천히 집으로 돌아가. 오늘도 집에 들어가 습관처럼 불을 켰어. 그리고 잠시 네가 앉아있던 자리를 바라봤지. 예전처럼 커피를 2잔 내렸어. 한 잔은 내 앞에 또 한 잔은 네가 앉던 자리에. 잔을 내려놓고 나서야 나는 잠시 웃었어. 이제는 아무도 그 커피를 마시지 않는다는 걸. 참 이상하지. 사람 하나가 떠났을 뿐인데 집안의 모든 것이 조금씩 달라져 버렸어. 냉장고 문을 여는 소리, 시계가 걷는 소리, 예전에는 들리지 않던 것들이 오늘따라 유난히 크게 들려. 네가 없는 저녁은 생각보다 조용하더라. 누군가에게 있었던 일을 말할 필요도 없고, 오늘 하루 힘들었다고 투정 부릴 사람도 없고, 괜찮은 척 웃어 보일 이유조차 없어. 네가 없는 저녁은 이렇게 긴 줄 몰랐어. 가끔은 문이 열리는 소리에 나도 모르게 고개를 들어. 혹시 네가 돌아온 건 아닐까 잠시 생각해. 하지만 복도에는 아무도 없고 나는 또 혼자 불을 끄고 앉아있어. 예전에는 혼자 있는 시간이 좋았는데 이제는 혼자라는 말이 조금 다르게 들려. 나는 네가 돌아오기를 기다리는 건 아니야. 이제는 알아. 사람의 마음에도 계절이 있다는 걸. 우리의 계절은 그때 끝났고 나는 이제 그 시간을 좋은 기억으로 남겨두려 해. 그래도 오늘 같은 저녁에는 한 번쯤 네가 보고 싶어. 네가 없는 저녁은 여전히 조금 쓸쓸하지만 예전처럼 아프지는 않아. 함께 했던 시간이 내게서 사라진 것이 아니라 내 삶의 한 부분으로 남아있다는 걸 이제는 알 것 같아. 그래서 오늘도 네가 행복하기를 조용히 빌어. 네가 없는 저녁에도 시간은 흘러가고 창밖의 불빛은 하나둘 꺼져가지만 내 마음속에 남은 우리의 작은 순간들은 아직도 따뜻하게 빛나고 있어. 언젠가 나도 이 모든 것을 편안하게 웃으며 말할 수 있겠지. 그때 우리는 참 행복했었다고. 오늘은 커피를 한 잔만 내렸어. 두 번째 잔은 이제 만들지 않아. 하지만 이상하게 마음은 조금 따뜻해. 네가 없는 저녁도 이제는 내가 살아가야 할 하루가 되었으니까 잘 지내. 어디에 있든 부디 따뜻한 저녁을 보내고 있기를. 비가 참 많이 오던 날이었어. 나는 우산 하나를 들고 내 앞에 서 있었지. 그때는 몰랐어. 그 우산을 다시 보게 되는 날이 이렇게 오래 걸릴 줄은. 낡은 우산 하나가 아직도 내 집 한 구석에 있어. 손잡이에는 작은 흠집 하나가 남아있고, 천천히 펼쳐보면 그날의 빗소리가 다시 들리는 것 같아. 너는 늘 내 쪽으로 우산을 조금 더 기울였고, 그래서 비를 맞은 건 언제나 너였지. 나는 그때 그게 사랑인 줄 몰랐어. 그저 네가 조금 불편하게 걷는다고만 생각했지. 사람은 참 늦게 깨닫나 봐. 누군가 나를 위해 조금씩 젖어가고 있었다는 걸. 그날의 우산 아래 우리는 참 가까이 걸었는데, 지금은 같은 하늘 아래 서로 다른 길을 걷고 있네. 네가 내게 기울여 주었던 작은 마음 하나를 나는 너무 늦게 알아버렸어. 비가 그친 뒤에도 그날의 기억은 마르지 않더라. 얼마 전 우연히 그 우산을 다시 펼쳤어. 천장에 맺힌 빗물이 바닥으로 하나둘 떨어지고, 나는 한참 동안 아무 말 없이 없이 서 있었어. 그때 네가 했던 말이 문득 생각났거든. 비가 많이 오네. 참 평범한 말이었는데 왜 이제 와서 그 말이 그렇게 따뜻한지. 우리가 헤어진 뒤 나는 많은 사람을 만났고 많은 길을 걸었어. 비가 오는 날이면 혼자 우산을 들고 걷기도 했지. 그런데 이상하게 그 누구도 내 쪽으로 우산을 기울여 주지는 않았어. 그제야 알았어. 사랑은 거창한 약속이 아니라 말없이 내 쪽으로 조금 더 가까이 와주는 그런 말. 오늘도 같은 자리에 앉았어. 그런데 맞은편 의자는 여전히 비어있네. 예전에는 그 자리에 네가 앉아 있었지. 저녁을 먹으며 오늘 있었던 일을 이야기하고 나는 대충 듣는 척하면서 사실은 네 목소리를 오래 듣고 있었어. 가끔은 별것도 아닌 일로 서로 웃었고 때로는 말없이 한참을 앉아 있었지. 그때는 몰랐어. 그런 평범한 저녁이 다시는 오지 않을 시간이었다는 걸. 사람은 참 이상하지. 가장 소중한 순간에는 그 소중함을 모르고 모든 것이 지나간 뒤에야 그때가 얼마나 따뜻했는지 알게 되니까. 빈 의자를 바라보면 네가 아직 앉아있는 것 같아. 아무 말 없이 웃던 얼굴, 작게 한숨 쉬던 모습, 이제는 모두 기억 속에만 남았지만 나는 가끔 그 자리를 바라보며 그때의 저녁을 다시 살아가. 얼마 전에는 네가 좋아하던 음식을 만들었어. 습관처럼 두 접시를 꺼냈다가 한참을 바라보고 다시 하나를 넣었지. 그 순간 알았어. 사람이 떠난다는 건 그 사람만 없어지는 게 아니라 함께했던 작은 습관들까지 하나씩 사라지는 일이구나. 네가 떠난 뒤 나는 많은 저녁을 혼자 보냈어. 처음에는 정막이 너무 크게 들렸고 나중에는 그 정막에 익숙해졌지. 하지만 익숙해진다고 해서 있는 것은 아니더라. 그저 마음 한쪽에 조용히 자리를 만들어주는 것, 그게 시간이 가르쳐준 이별인 것 같아. 가끔 생각해. 내가 그때 조금 더 다정했더라면 조금 더 네 이야기를 들어주었더라면, 조금 더 자주 고맙다고 말했다면 무언가 달라졌을까. 하지만 이제는 그 질문도 내려놓으려고 해. 그때의 우리도 그때 알 수 있는 만큼 서로를 사랑했을 테니까. 빈 의자를 바라보면 이제는 조금 웃을 수 있어. 네가 없는 자리가 슬프기만 한 것은 아니야. 그곳에는 아직도 우리가 함께했던 수많은 저녁이 있으니까. 나는 그 시간을 후회하지 않아. 내 인생에 너라는 사람이 있었다는 것, 그 하나만으로도 충분히 고마우니까. 언젠가 나도 이 자리를 떠나겠지. 그때까지는 가끔 너를 기억할게. 비 오는 저녁이면 네가 좋아했던 노래를 듣고 따뜻한 커피 한 잔 놓고 조용히 앉아 있을게. 그리고 마음속으로 말할 거야. 참 고마웠다고. 평범했던 내 하루를 행복하게 만들어줘서 정말 고마웠다고. 오늘도 맞은편 의자는 비어있어. 하지만 이상하게 오늘은 외롭지 않아. 빈 의자 위에 우리의 시간이 앉아 있으니까. 나는 천천히 불을 끄고 혼자 집으로 돌아가. 내일 천천히 불을 끄고 혼자 집으로 돌아가. 내일 저녁에도 다시 여기 앉을 거야. 오늘도 맞은편 의자는 비어있어. 오늘도 맞은편 의자는 여전히 비어있네. 예전에는 그 자리에 네가 앉아 있었지. 저녁을 먹으며 오늘 있었던 일을 이야기하고. 나는 대충 듣는 척하면서 사실은 네 목소리를 오래 듣고 있었어. 가끔은 별것도 아닌 일로 서로 웃었고, 때로는 말없이 한참을 앉아 있었지. 그때는 몰랐어. 그런 평범한 저녁이 다시는 오지 않을 시간이었다는 걸. 사람은 참 이상하지. 가장 소중한 순간에는 그 소중함을 모르고 모든 것이 아직 새벽은 오지 않았어. 창밖의 불빛도 하나 둘 사라지고. 나는 오늘도 잠들지 못하고 있어. 살다 보면 후회되는 날이 있지. 그때 왜 그렇게 말했을까. 조금만 참을걸. 조금 더 들어줄걸. 그땐 그게 세상의 전부 같았어. 너무 쉽게 마음을 닫았어. 시간이 지나면 괜찮아질 줄 알았어. 하지만 시간은 지우는 게 아니더라. 상처를 안고 사는 법을 조용히 배우게 하더라. 새벽이 오기 전에 나는 나를 용서해. 새벽이 오기 전에 조금 더 따뜻해질래. 그때 나도 살아내고 있었으니까. 나도 누군가에게 상처를 주고받았으니까. 떠나간 사람들에게 아직 할 말이 많아. 미안했다는 말, 고마웠다는 말. 그때는 왜 그렇게 쉽게 못했을까. 사람은 늘 마지막 가까워져야 가장 하고 싶은 말을 찾는 것 같아. 지금 내 곁엔 예전만큼 사람이 없지만 이제는 그게 두렵지 않아. 남은 마음을 더 소중히 보고 오늘 함께한 사람에게 조금 더 따뜻하게 말할래. 작은 순간에도 고맙다고 말할래. 혹시 너도 어딘가에서 이 밤을 보내고 있다면 부디 편안했으면 좋겠다. 나를 잊어도 괜찮아. 나를 미워해도 괜찮아. 다만 네 삶이 조금은 따뜻했으면 좋겠어. 새벽이 오기 전에 나는 나를 용서해. 새벽이 오기 전에 남은 나를 다르게 살래. 사랑한다면 조금 더 자주 말할래. 고맙다면 미루지 않고 말할래. 새벽이 오기 전에 마지막으로 창밖봐. 어둠이 아무리 길어도 결국 아침은 오니까. 지나온 모든 날도 언젠가 이야기가 돼. 그때 나는 웃으며 참 많이 서툴렀단 말해. 조금씩 하늘이 밝아와. 나는 이제 잠들지 않아도 괜찮아. 새로운 하루가 다시 시작되니까. 어제의 나를 조용히 내려놓고 오늘의 나는 조금 더 따뜻하게 사람을 바라보며 살아가려고 해. 새벽이 왔네. 참 오래 기다렸어. There are things we never said, words that stayed somewhere between your heart and mine. For all these years, I still remember the evening you left. Rain on the window and your coat by the door. You looked at me quietly as if you were waiting for one simple reason to stay a little more, but I was too proud to tell you I was afraid, and you were too tired to ask me again. So we stood there in the silence, two people in love pretending it had to end. I thought tomorrow would give us another chance. I thought time would bring you back, but some doors close without a sound, and some goodbyes never turn around. These are the things we never said, the words that stayed inside our hearts. I should have told you I was scared. I should have held you when you turned away. Maybe we could have found another road. Maybe we could have started again. But life moved on, and all I have now are the things we never said. Years have passed since that rainy night. I have lived through many seasons. I have known happiness, I have known loneliness, and I have learned to live with my regrets. Sometimes an old song brings you back to me, not the sadness, not the goodbye, just the way you smiled when you were tired and quietly leaned your head against my shoulder. I wonder where you are tonight. Perhaps you have a family of your own. Perhaps you have forgotten the man I used to be, and maybe that is how it should be. I don't want to disturb your life. I don't want to bring back the past. I only hope someone holds your hand when the nights feel a little too long. If I could go back to that evening, I would not make a promise. I would not ask you to stay forever. I would simply say I love you. I was afraid of losing you, and I was foolish enough to hide it. That is all you ever needed to hear. These are the things we never said, still living quietly inside my heart. I should have told you you were enough. I should have thanked you for every ordinary day, for every cup of coffee we shared. There is still a chair across the table. I don't move it. Some things are easier to leave where they were. I made dinner for one tonight. The room was quiet except for the clock. I almost reached for another glass. Then I remembered there was no one coming home. You used to sit across from me, tell me about your day, while the coffee grew cold. I rarely noticed how beautiful those evenings were. I thought happiness would always wait for us somewhere just beyond tomorrow. We were never asking for much, just another evening, another morning, another ordinary day together. I didn't know ordinary days could become memories. Now the chair across the table is empty, and I still find myself looking over there, as if you might smile at me, as if you might ask how my day was. I never knew I would miss the smallest things about you until they were gone. Years have passed, the house is quieter now. I have learned to make my own coffee. I have learned to eat alone. But sometimes when evening comes, I still set 2 cups without thinking. Then I laugh at myself and put one away. If I could see you just once again, I wouldn't ask why you left. I wouldn't ask if you ever missed me. I would simply say thank you for all those ordinary nights, for sitting there across from me, for making an ordinary life feel like enough. Now the chair across the table is empty, but I don't hate the silence anymore. Your memory doesn't hurt the way it used to. It feels more like a warm light left on in another room, something I can see, even when I cannot reach it. There is still a chair across the table, and I think I'll leave it there. Not because I'm waiting for you, but because some memories deserve a place to stay. You were once a part of my everyday life, and that is something I will never be ashamed to miss. The coffee is cold, the night is getting late. I turn off the light and leave the chair where it is. Tomorrow morning will come and I will begin again. But tonight I'll remember how lucky I was to have someone sitting there. There is still a chair across the table. I don't move it. Some things are easier to leave where they were. I made dinner for one tonight. The room was quiet except for the clock. I almost reached for another glass, then I remembered there was no one coming home. You used to sit across from me, tell me about your day. While the coffee grew cold, I rarely noticed how beautiful those evenings were. I thought happiness would always wait for us, somewhere just beyond tomorrow. We were never asking for much, just another evening, another morning, another ordinary day together. I didn't know ordinary days could become memories. Now the chair across the table is empty, and I still find myself looking over there, as if you might smile. There was a light you always left on, even when you knew I was coming home late. I never thought I would miss that light. It used to shine through the curtains, a small yellow light in the window. I could see it from halfway down the street. And somehow I always felt there was someone waiting for me. You never asked why I was late. You simply opened the door and smiled. I was young then, always thinking there would be more time, more evenings, more conversations, more chances to tell you what you meant to me. I thought love would wait patiently until I finally learned how to say it. But time doesn't wait, it quietly moves, taking little things with it, until one day you look around and realize how much is gone. Now the light we left behind lives only in my memory, a little window in the dark, a place where I once belonged. I would give anything tonight to see that light again, not to change the past, just to remember how it felt to come home to someone. The house is different now, the curtains are gone, someone else lives there. I sometimes walk past that street and slow my steps, just for a moment, as if memory might open the door. I wonder if you remember those quiet evenings, the coffee, the rain, the sound of my keys at the door, the little light you always left on. Perhaps you forgot, and that's alright. I remember enough for both of us. Now the light we left behind still warms a corner of my heart. Even after all these years, even after everything changed, some memories do not asked to return. They simply stay, quietly reminding us that once we were loved. If I could see that light again, just once, I would stand there in the rain and thank you for every night you waited, for every time you made me feel that I had somewhere to go. I didn't understand it then, but now I know that little light was never just a light, it was home. Tonight my room is dark, but I don't mind. I close my eyes and somewhere inside my memory I can still see that little light you left behind. It was a warm evening, the kind of evening you never think you will remember. The sun was going down behind the buildings, and you were sitting beside me without saying much. There was a quiet wind moving through the trees, and somewhere in the distance a train was passing. I remember thinking, this is a good night. I didn't know it would be our last. We walked slowly along the old street. You talked about the things you wanted, a little house somewhere peaceful, a garden and a quiet life. I listened and smiled, never imagining that our dreams would someday belong to different people. We were young enough to believe that love alone could keep us together. We didn't understand, sometimes two people can love each other and still lose their way. That was our last warm evening, the last time I held your hand, the last time we walked together without knowing where the road would end. I would give so much to return there, not to change what happened, only to sit beside you a little longer and remember how it felt. Years later I found an old photograph. You were smiling at the camera, I was looking at you instead. I wondered if you knew how much that moment would mean to me. After all these years, some memories become more precious with time. I don't regret loving you, even though we couldn't stay together. You taught me that a quiet evening a simple walk, a cup of coffee, or someone's hand resting beside yours can become the most valuable things in a lifetime. That was our last warm evening, and now I understand we weren't saying goodbye to each other. We were saying goodbye to a part of ourselves, the young people we used to be. I came back to the old street tonight. Nothing looked the same, except the feeling I carried with me. The little cafe is still on the corner, though the sign above the door has changed. I stood outside for a while, remembering the evenings when you waited for me. You always arrived early, and I always arrived late. You never complained. You just smiled and moved your coffee to make room for mine. We talked about small things, the weather, the neighbors, the plans for tomorrow. Nothing important, at least that's what I thought back then. Now I would give almost anything to hear one of those ordinary conversations again. Time has a strange way of changing everything. The things we wanted became distant. The things we ignored became precious, and the people we thought would stay sometimes become memories. Where the evening used to be, I can still see you sitting there with your quiet smile and tired eyes, waiting for me to come home. I didn't know those nights were beautiful. I didn't know I was already living some of the best days of my life. I walk past the park where we used to sit. The bench is still there. The trees are older now, so am I. For a moment I almost called your name, then I remembered some names belong to another time. I used to think that losing someone meant losing everything you shared. Now I know that's not true. A person may leave, but the kindness they gave you, the lessons they left behind, and the way they changed your heart can stay forever. Where the evening used to be, there is only the quiet street. But I don't feel as lonely as before, because I finally understand you were never meant to stay forever. You were meant to be part of my life for as long as we were given. Where the evening used to be, I leave one memory behind tonight. Not a promise, not a wish for yesterday, just a quiet thank you for every evening you gave me, for every ordinary hour that became precious after you were gone. The street is getting quiet. I turn toward home. The night feels colder now, but somewhere inside me a small warmth remains. Maybe that's what love becomes when the years have carried it away. A quiet light that never completely goes out. I came back to the old street tonight. Nothing looked the same, except the feeling I carried with me. The little cafe is still on the corner, though the sign above the door has changed. I stood outside for a while, remembering the evenings when you waited for me. You always arrived early, and I always arrived late. You never complained, you just smiled and moved your coffee to make room for mine. We talked about small things, the weather, the neighbors, the plans for tomorrow. Nothing important, at least that's what I thought back then. Now I would give almost anything to hear one of those ordinary conversations again. Time has a strange way of changing everything. The things we wanted became distant. The things we ignored became precious, and the people we thought would stay sometimes become memories where the evening used to be. I can still see you sitting there with your quiet smile and tired eyes, waiting for me to come home. I didn't know those nights were beautiful. I didn't know I was already living some of the best days of my life. I walked past the park where we used to sit. The bench is still there. I found an old letter inside a drawer tonight. My handwriting looked younger, and somehow so did my heart. I wrote your name at the top, then I sat there for an hour, trying to find the words I was too afraid to say. I told you that I missed you, that I still remembered your smile, that some mornings I still looked for you before remembering you were gone. I wrote about the winter, the small apartment, the cold windows, the coffee we shared before work. I wrote about the arguments too, the things I said when I was angry, the things you said when you were tired, so important at the time, and so foolish now. I wanted to tell you I was sorry, I wanted to tell you you were never the reason I was unhappy. I was simply too young to understand what I had. This is the letter I never sent. I let the silence talk for me. This is the letter I never sent. I should have said, I should have stayed when you asked me to. I should have loved you out loud. This is the letter I never sent. And now I know what it meant. I folded the letter carefully and placed it back in the drawer. I don't know why I kept it. Perhaps I was still waiting for a day when the past would open its door. But I know better now. Some doors stay closed. If this letter had reached you, would anything have changed? Would you have come back? Would I have become a better man? I will never know, and maybe I don't need to know. Some questions stay unanswered. This is the letter I never sent. I let the silence talk for me. This is the letter I never sent. I should have said, I should have stayed when you asked me to. I should have loved you out loud. This is the letter I never sent. And now I know what it meant. So I will keep this letter, not because I'm waiting for you, but because it reminds me to say what matters now. To hold a hand before they leave, to say I love you on time, to never let pride become another goodbye. This is the letter I never sent. But I won't live like that again. I put the letter back in the drawer. Then I turned off the light. For the first time in many years, I felt no regret, only gratitude for having loved you, even if I was too young to know how to say it. I found an old letter inside a drawer tonight. My handwriting looked younger, and somehow so did my heart. I wrote your name at the top. Then I sat there for an hour, trying to find the words I was too afraid to say. I told you that I missed you, that I still remembered your smile, that some mornings I still looked for you before remembering you were gone. I wrote about the winter, the small apartment, the cold windows, the coffee we shared before work. I wrote about the arguments too, the things I said when I was angry, the things you said when you were tired, so important at the time and so foolish now. I wanted to tell you